Okay guys, and welcome to the next video in the Theory of the Firm series, which is on monopoly. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So the following data illustrates the demand function faced by a monopolist. Okay, so we've got prices here and quantities here, and the question asks, calculate the marginal revenue resulting from a fall in price from $8 to $6. Now, well, the way you calculate marginal revenue is the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. So I'm just going to, forgive me while I adjust my camera down. So basically we have to find out the two total revenues that existed at the different prices. Well, luckily enough, we know what total revenue is, which is just price times quantity. Total revenue for the first one, because it fell from $8 to $6. So total revenue from the first one was 8 times 24, okay, and I have that working out as 192, and total revenue for the second price was 6 times 36, and I have that working out as 216. Okay, well, how do you calculate the change? Well, it's the second thing minus the first thing, so it's 216 minus 192. That's the change in total revenue. And then the change in quantity, well, it was the second minus the first, which is 36 minus 24. And what I get on the top is 24 and on the bottom is 12, and I work that out as a marginal revenue of $2. And guys, that's all there is for that question. Now, the next thing, which I know we have covered before, and again, forgive me as I adjust the document camera, I know we have covered it before, but I suppose there's no harm in kind of going over it again. Explain why a profit maximizing monopolist would never choose to operate in the inelastic portion of its demand curve. Well, if demand, which is average revenue, is inelastic and price rises, well, then total revenue will rise also, because price will rise, quantity demanded will fall, but it's inelastic, so it'll fall by a lower percent, ensuring that total revenue rises. Since the firm is selling and as such producing less, if it's producing less, its total cost will therefore fall. Hence, decreasing output would increase profits. Therefore, profits cannot be maximized when operating in the inelastic portion of the demand curve. Now, another thing that we could say here, and I think it's important to know both so you understand why. Profit maximization occurs at that quantity where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. We've said that over and over again at this stage, okay? Let me just get this cursor out of the way. Now, marginal revenue is negative in the inelastic region of the demand curve. And how do we know that? Well, because marginal revenue is below the horizontal axis for the inelastic region, okay? When marginal revenue equals 0 and you were to go up to the demand curve, at that price, its PED would be 1, okay, unit elastic. So marginal cost cannot be negative, we know that. Therefore, marginal revenue can only equal marginal cost in the elastic region of the demand curve, okay? Now, on to the next thing. So we've got firm A is a firm with monopoly power, and it's producing a level of output, Q equals 150,000 units per month. Now, and all of the following data is true. But before we go on to that data, the first question is, what is the term, or define the term monopoly power? Right, well, monopoly power simply is the ability of a firm to increase its price without quantity demanded falling to 0. It has a downward sloping demand curve. Now, looking at these figures, which we're going to do now, don't forget that average revenue is the exact same as price, right? And in perfect competition, price would be the same as the marginal revenue, and it's not. So marginal revenue is below average revenue. Marginal revenue is below price. Marginal revenue is below the demand curve. Okay, because average revenue is the price at each quantity, which is the demand curve. Average cost is below both of those, and marginal cost is below all of them. Okay, now, have I done that? Yes, I have. Okay, we're doing fine. Now, using the figures, those figures above, okay, Calculate the monthly level of profits firm A is making at the current level of output Q. So I just want to make sure that you can see all of that, and you can. Excellent. Okay, well, the first thing is profits. One of the ways of calculating profits, total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue is price times quantity, and total cost is average cost or average total cost times quantity. So looking back at these figures here, okay, well, what's the price and what's the quantity? Well, the quantity is 150,000 units, as we can see here. Okay, the price is 140. So what we've got now to calculate total revenue is 140 multiplied by 150,000, and that, I believe, equals 21 million. Okay, now for the next one, for total cost, well, what's that? Well, that's average cost or average total cost, which is 60, times the quantity, which is 150,000. Okay, so we've got 60 times 150,000, and I worked that out as 9 million. So profit is simply total revenue minus total cost. So we've got 21 million minus 9 million. And I worked that out to be $12 million. And you can see all of that. Excellent. Okay, I hope that makes sense, guys. I really, really do. Okay, so using the relationship P equals that, all that kind of stuff. And this is important because where's marginal revenue? It's below average revenue. State the reason firm A cannot be a perfect competitor. Well, the firm is not a perfect competitor as the firm faces a downward sloping demand curve. Well, how do we know that? With marginal revenue below average revenue. That's how we know it, because marginal revenue has to equal average revenue in perfect competition. And when it's below it, when marginal revenue is below average revenue, that means that the demand curve is downward sloping. Now, determine whether firm A should increase or decrease its level of output in order to maximize profits. And you must give a reason for this answer. Okay, well, basically what we're saying here is that firm A should increase its level of output. Well, why? Well, the profit maximizing condition is where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Marginal revenue is downward sloping, marginal cost is upward sloping. Every extra unit that they produce up until the point, the quantity, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, marginal revenue equals marginal cost, every extra unit that they produce up to and including that quantity will give them a marginal profit per unit. Okay, so they would be increasing their profit. So let me just read this. The firm should increase its level of output as marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. The firm should continue to increase its level of output to the profit maximizing quantity where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Okay, so again, we're using all of these, I suppose, identity or whatever it is. Well, it's not an identity, it's an equation, but anyway, a relationship to answer all these questions. Determine whether total revenue collected, total revenue now, will increase or decrease or remain unchanged if firm A increases its level of output. Well, total revenue will increase. And why is that? Because we can see that marginal revenue is positive. Okay, now it will fall and it will go to below zero, as we said already in one of the previous questions, but it currently now is greater than zero. So that means the next bit of money that they will get is $80 for the next good that they sell. So total revenue will increase if the firm increases its output as marginal revenue is positive. Increasing output by 1 unit will add $80 to its total revenue, and thus total revenue will increase. Okay, hoping A, B, C, D, E. Excellent. Okay, so making sure you can see and it's square. Describe how average cost will be affected if firm A increases its level of output. And you see, again, guys, you have to know your relationships. Because marginal cost is less than average cost, that means that average cost is falling. When marginal cost is below average cost is falling. When marginal cost is above average cost is rising. And when marginal cost equals average cost is at a minimum. And if their firm are producing that quantity where MC equals AC, they are productively efficient. So average total cost will decrease since marginal cost is below average total cost. Therefore, producing an additional unit of output will reduce average total cost. Another reason why profits will rise. Okay, now determine whether firm A is productively efficient at the current level of output. You must give a reason. Well, it clearly is not. Okay, and why? Because productive efficiency occurs when these two are equal and they are not. All right, so when they're not equal, you're not productively efficient. Firm A is not productively efficient as average total cost is greater than marginal cost. Therefore, average total cost is not at a minimum. Productive efficiency occurs at that quantity where marginal cost equals average total cost. And I hope we're doing okay. Now, again, some students kind of got a little bit concerned with this or whatever, but it really is nothing to be concerned about. Okay, so the first thing I would say is actually I'll put price here, just label the axes, why not? And I'll put, you can see down here, quantity down here. Okay, I may be putting a line through that, but anyway, so I'm going to do this in pen. I always say you guys don't do your diagrams in pen. The only reason I'm doing it in pen is so you guys can see it clear. And I'm going to draw the marginal cost. That's the lowest, okay, we know that. Then there has to be the average cost, but don't forget when these two cross, that's productive efficiency. That quantity there is productive efficiency. Okay, the minimum point of the marginal cost curve. I'm going to call it AC. ATC is fine as well. Now, don't forget, now we need our marginal revenue to be higher than those two, so we do something like that, okay? And don't forget, it can go negative, but I'm just not going to do that now. It's not important. Marginal revenue. And if you want to draw it absolutely properly, the average and the marginal revenue have to cut the price axis at the exact same amount, exact same point, which is up there, but this is meant to be twice as steeply sloped as the average revenue. Okay, and then what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to just change pens again. Don't be do what I say, not what I do, and just go up from this quantity. Could have been any quantity that would have caused all of this to be true. I'm just going to call this the quantity, and if I go across here, okay, this is the marginal costs. Okay, this here is the average cost. This here, going across, up from this quantity and across, is the marginal revenue. I'm just going to write that in there, or. And then going across from the demand curve, which is the average revenue, is the price or average revenue. That's how you find the price at each quantity. Go up to the demand curve, which is the average revenue curve. And there we go. And that is that question fully answered, guys. Okay, that's that graph drawn. All right, so again, as always, I really do hope these things help. Okay, now, on to the next one. Forgive me while I adjust this. And I believe I've covered this in the previous video. And again, it's just repetition, constant dripping, where's the stone? Hopefully, if you hear it enough times, it goes in easier. Okay, now the next thing that we're saying here is that the following diagram illustrates the demand and cost conditions of a firm. Absolutely no problem. Okay, straight away, it's, well, at the very least, it's neither oligopoly because it doesn't have a kink demand curve, and it's not a perfect competition because it's got a downward sloping demand curve with marginal revenue below the average revenue, and that's the first question. Okay, identify whether this firm is in perfect competition. You must give a reason for the answer. Well, the firm is not in perfect competition. The reason being is that it faces a downward sloping demand curve with marginal revenue below average revenue. That's it. Okay, the demand curve's downward sloping. Can't be perfectly competitive, okay, just can't happen. Now, the next thing that we have here, motoring along, good stuff, making great progress. Identify the profit maximizing level of output from this firm, or for this firm, excuse me. You must give a reason for your, they're looking for a lot of reasons here now, lads. Okay, so what we're saying here is that we know the profit maximization occurs where MC equals M more. Here's M more, here's MC. The profit maximizing level of output is Q equals 17. And the reason is because that's the level of output where MC equals M more. From that quantity, you would go up and touch the average cost curve and then go across and see that that's 11. That tells you the cost per unit on average. And then from that quantity, you would go up, touch the average revenue curve and across, and that gives you the price, which is 20 at that quantity. Okay, we'll be referring to a lot of this stuff. Okay, so The profit maximizing level of output is Q equals 17,000 units. This is the level of output that occurs at the profit maximizing condition where MC equals MR, or marginal revenue equals marginal cost, or marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Okay, now calculate the total revenues and total costs and profits or losses this firm is for this firm at the profit maximizing level of output. Well, straight away, the definition of a supernormal profit or abnormal profit is when average revenue is greater than average cost at that quantity. And it is at the profit maximizing level of quantity, which is 17. How do we know that? Well, we went to MC equals MR and then came down to here to 17. Then what we do is we go up to the average cost, and that's 11, and we go up to the average revenue and across, and that's 20. So average revenue is greater than average cost at the profit maximizing level of output, which is 17,000 units, because that's the quantity where MC equals MR. All right, because AR is greater than AC, we have supernormal profits. If AR was equal to AC, we'd have normal profits. If AR was less than AC, we'd have losses. Okay, so just trying to give you as much information and trying to do it efficiently as well. Okay, so total revenue is just price times quantity. Okay, so how do we find out this? Well, the prices we've already said is 20 and the quantity is 17,000 units. Okay, so it's $20 multiplied by 17,000, and that gives me 340,000. Okay, the total cost. Well, total cost is average cost times quantity. Quantity is 17,000. That won't change because we're talking about that quantity. And then 11 is the average total cost at that quantity. So it's $11 multiplied by 17,000 equals, and I have that as 187,000. Okay, well then profit is total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue is 340,000. Total cost is 187,000. So therefore the profit that is earned is $153,000. And again, guys, I really hope, like, this stuff is so repetitive. I don't want to say easy, but it is repetitive. And that's what makes it easier. Okay, forgive me, adjusting the camera and the sheets of paper. Okay, identify the level of output this firm would choose if instead of profit, it aimed at maximizing revenues. Right, well, we know that the condition in order to maximize revenue is when marginal revenue equals 0. Marginal revenue equals 0 at a quantity of 20,000 units. Okay, so total revenue is maximized by producing that quantity of output where marginal revenue equals 0. MR, or marginal revenue, equals 0 at Q equals 20,000 units. Okay, again, I really like I just, you know, if you watch all of these videos one after the other, you see the amount of repetition, you see that, okay, it should start to make sense, and you see that hopefully you start to remember it. Explain the meaning of the term allocative efficiency, okay, and its implications for social or community surplus. Right, well, let's just explain it first and then we'll look at it on the graph. Allocative efficiency means that society's resources are allocated in the best possible way, and as a result, just the right amount of the good is produced from society's point of view, so that social surplus, which is consumer surplus plus producer surplus, is maximized. Okay, allocative efficiency, all right, is where price equals marginal cost. Actually, I'll just quickly say it now. So price equals marginal cost here at 12 and at a quantity of 26. That's allocative efficiency, but it's not productive efficiency because productive efficiency occurs here. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why it is considered that any market structure other than perfect competition is not desirable. All right, now let's have a look. Okay, so, I knew it was coming up, forgive me. Okay, so referring to the diagram, identify the level of output that should be produced for allocative efficiency to be achieved. Right, allocative efficiency occurs at output where Q equals 26,000. The reason being is that at this level of output, price or average revenue equals marginal cost. Average revenue is the price is the marginal benefit that consumer gets, or how much they value that good. The firm should continue to produce up until the point where the price equals marginal cost, and then that will maximize total or community surplus. Okay, now, last page, excellent. Okay, so define the term productive efficiency. So again, what I'll say is this here, at this quantity where P equals 12 and Q equals 26,000, price equals marginal cost. Okay, that's what I want you to understand, because it's where the marginal cost curve kind of touches the demand curve, right? Because that's how you determine the price. Now, for productive efficiency, that's where MC crosses AC, and that's at 23,000. Okay, I want you to see that too. So define productive efficiency. Well, productive efficiency occurs when the firm produces that quantity of output where average total costs are at a minimum. Productive efficiency occurs at that quantity where average total cost equals marginal cost. Marginal cost has to cross the average cost curve at its minimum point. It's a mathematical necessity. It has to happen by how these things are defined. So therefore, that's the minimum point of the average cost curve, and 23,000 is the minimum, is the quantity that occurs in the minimum point of the average cost curve. Now, again, we'll come to this. I do believe I've already said this, certainly in other videos, and I believe in this one, but we'll come to it now anyway. With reference to the firm's revenues, comment on the price elasticity of demand at point F of the demand curve in the diagram. Right, well, point F is here, okay, just on the diagram there. Now, what I want you to see is at point F, MR equals 0. Okay, so what I'm saying is that at that quantity, marginal revenue equals 0. When marginal revenue equals 0, right, the quantity at which marginal revenue equals 0, the demand curve at the point above it, where it touches, which is here, which is F, the PED for the good has to be unit elastic, which is a PED of 1. So at point F in the demand curve, PED equals 1. The reason is that at point F, marginal revenue is 0. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helps, and I hope to see you in the next video.